Hey guys, Collin Chi, certified nutritional consultant, numerologist, bringing you guys another talk today. Today I'm going to be talking about how astrology can potentially prove that parallel universes exist right here on Earth. Okay, not off in some distant universe or distant galaxy. Um, Parallel universes are thought that basically, there's another being such as myself, very similar to myself, living a very similar path in another universe or in some other dimension. Okay. So this is possible right here on Earth because of time twins. Okay. People born in the same place, right near the same time as each other, and the parallelism that exists between the two people's lives. Okay, they might die at the same time. They might get the exact same injury at the same time. They might see fortune or misfortune at the same time as the other person. And oftentimes these people aren't even aware of each other's existence. I mean, think about all the 10 other babies that were born in the same hospital as you, at the same time or right near the same time as you, or your son or daughter or child. There's probably, especially in large cities, there's probably at least 10 other people floating around out there living parallel lives to your own. So I'm going to talk about this book, Astrology, the Space Age Science. I'm going to read a few excerpts. Joseph F. Goodavage. Interesting excerpts between commoners and kings and the parallelism between their lives, etc., etc. So let me jump into it here, folks. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a short and sweet one, but interesting stuff. So, your astro twin can revolutionize your life, okay? Almost everyone has a time twin somewhere. These are people who have the same birth date, the same hour of birth, and were born of the same longitude and latitude. It often happens that dozens of babies are born in big cities at exactly the same moment. And as big as modern cities are, they represent only the tiniest dot on the global map. People born at the same instant anywhere in any city must therefore share virtually the same horoscope. For centuries, astrologers have been saying that people with identical horoscopes live parallel lives, with occasional differences explained by genetics and the station or position into which they were born. Until now, no one has ever proved it. The fact is that if powerful forces from the surrounding universe have a predictable effect on human life, the action of these forces in your life can be dramatically demonstrated by locating people who were born at almost the same time and place, and then comparing their life history with yours. The entire structure of astrology must stand or fall on such evidence. I decided to look into the matter and prove how fraudulent astrology really was. Okay, this guy actually wrote this book because he wanted to prove that astrology was bullcrap, and he was completely convinced otherwise. And this is case after case of why astrology is legitimate. Here is what I learned. In 100% of the cases investigated, such astro twins do indeed show parallelism. They tend to become ill simultaneously and of the same disease, to suffer identical injuries at the same times and to the same parts of the body. The injuries often leave identical scars. They tend to get married, to have accidents, receive promotions, and have the same number of children at the same times and of the same sex, and they even die at the same times and of the same causes. Parallelism among commoners and kings. On June 4th, 1738, two completely unrelated babies were born at almost the same minute in the English parish of St. Martin's in the Fields. One child was Samuel Hemmings, a commoner. The other was King George III. Hemmings became an ironmonger. He went into business for himself on the same October date in 1760 that George III ascended to the throne of England. Hemmings was married on September 8th, 1761. King George was also married on September 8th, 1761. Each became ill and had accidents at the same times. Every major event in Hemmings' life was mirrored in the life of the king and vice versa. Interesting. But on January 29th, 1820, King George died. On January 29th, 1820, Samuel Hemmings, a prosperous ironmonger, also died, in the same hour and of the same cause. George V, I believe that is, the Prince of Wales, was not so affectionately regarded. He was born in the same year, month, date, and hour as a commoner who became a chimney sweep. When the commoner's parents learned of the prince's birth, they promptly christened him Prince George. Okay, injured in the same way. On the day that Prince George was kicked in the hip by a donkey, George V was kicked in the ribs by a horse. Both were injured and incapacitated for the same amount of time. When the Prince of Wales lost everything and went bankrupt, so did the commoner prince. And when all the king's horses were sold by the royal horse seller, the ex-chimney sweep lost his asses under the auctioneer's hammer. However much he wanted to imitate royalty, it seems unlikely that the commoner would choose to lose everything he had to serve that end. I think this is Edward, I don't know, the 7th. I have trouble reading Roman numerals sometimes. Edward the 7th was born in the same year, month, date, and hour as yet another commoner. Both displayed parallelism in their respective levels of life, and both died on May 6, 1910, within an hour. Kaiser William II of Germany was born at the same time and in the same locality as a lowly artisan. Each had the same number of children of the same age and the same sex. Each experienced identical illnesses and accidents at the same times. Except for the difference in their respective environments, the children of these men also showed many similarities. When the Kaiser eventually learned of his double, he bestowed the royal bounty upon him. The Kaiser and his twin died at the same time. Another impossible coincidence that happened. In April 1958, another strange incident involving variations on the name Peterson occurred outside Miami, Florida. 3 cars were stopped at a red light when a young woman rammed the last car from behind. Here was the lineup. Car number 1 was driven by Cecil H. Peterson, Petterson. Car number 2 was driven by Harry C. Peterson, Petterson. Car number 3 was driven by Arthur H. Peterson, Pettersen. All 3 cars suffered similar damages. The Petersons were reported to be born in different years, but all within 4 days of the same month. None were related to any of the others. Okay, I think of numerology in regard to this, because in numerology you look at names and determine, each letter has a number. So, these people, regardless of astrology, regardless of whether they were born at the same time, same place, because they have the same last names, the same letters in their names, pretty much, it gives them a very similar numerological character type. And maybe possibly a similar destiny, because we get the destiny number from the name number. So your destiny is derived from your name in numerology. Birth and death at the same moment. The bizarre and unexplainable case of Donald Chapman and Donald Brazil is representative of about 10 others of its kind. They were born at the same hour and minute in neighboring towns in California on September 5th, 1933. 5 days after their 23rd birthday, on September 10th, 1956, Mr. Brazil of Ferndale and Mr. Chapman of Eureka met for the first and last time in this life as they drove in opposite directions on U.S. Highway 101 south of Eureka early on a Sunday morning. They crashed head-on and both were killed instantly. Crazy coincidences. The fantastic coincidence in Ireland. Shortly before Christmas, about 3 months after the deaths of Don Brazil and Don Chapman in 1956, Jack Smith and his wife were driving along a road in Dublin next to the river Liffey that flows through the Irish capital. In a rare accident, their car somehow flipped off the road and toppled into the river. Mr. and Mrs. Jack Smith were drowned. Their children, 11-year-old Vicky and 8-year-old Peter Smith, who were not with them, became orphans, but not for long. John Shannon and his wife, close friends of the Smiths, adopted the children. 4 years from the date on which the Smiths had drowned, John Shannon was driving along the same road. Somehow his car slipped off the road and toppled into the river Liffey at the exact spot the Smiths' car had gone down. Shannon was also drowned. He left a widow and 2 orphans, Peter and Vicky. John Shannon was born in the same year and month and only 4 days after Jack Smith. Crazy coincidences. synchronicities, whatever you want to call these. This is an interesting one. This one's pretty uncanny. The fugitive twins. On February 27, 1964, another remarkable coincidence occurred in two different states at the same time. In Hackettstown, New Jersey, a 17-year-old escapee from Annandale Reformatory held off state and local police from the attic of an abandoned house during a 2-hour gun battle. The fugitive fired away with a .22 caliber rifle, but had a shotgun and some pistols as well. Troopers brought in tear gas, but the boy's father managed to talk him into surrendering. On the same date and hour in Syracuse, New York, another 17-year-old boy was holding off police and state troopers from another attic retreat, also with a .22 caliber rifle. He, too, had other weapons. This boy's father tried to talk him down unsuccessfully. He was smoked out with a barrage of tear gas. Both boys were born in the same year, same month, and same date. The Astro twin families. I got a few more examples here, and that's going to be pretty much it. The Astro twin families. In 1939, two unrelated women met for the first time in a hospital room in Hackensack, New Jersey. Their last names were Hannah and Osborne, but they had the same first name, Edna. Each woman had a baby at the same time. The babies weighed the same and were given the same name, Patricia Edna. Just another coincidence? Maybe, but here's what their conversation revealed. Both their husbands were named Harold. Each Harold was in the same business and owned the same make, model, and color car. The Hannahs and the Osbornes had been married exactly 3.5 years and had the same anniversary. The babies were their first. Both fathers were born in the same year, month, and day. The mothers, too, had the same birth date and the same number of brothers and sisters. Each Edna was a blue-eyed brunette, same height, same weight, and wore the same size clothes. Their husbands were of the same religion, a different one than that of the wives, which was also the same. Each family owned a dog named Spot, same mixed breed, same size, and same age. Both Spots were bought at the same time and were of the same sex. Okay, crazy. These women didn't know each other until they went into the hospital to give birth to their child. Okay. And they had all this crap that was the same. So I'm giving you guys examples that parallel universes exist right here on Earth. There's other people. You should try and find them. Look up hospital records or try and contact. I don't know if you can actually get this information nowadays because everything is so controlled. But if you can find the information of other people that were born at the same time as you, find out for yourself whether this is real or not. Okay. The obvious is most difficult to see. On March 30th, 1964, a doctor and his wife were sentenced to 2 years in prison in Tucson, Arizona, for extreme cruelty to their 5-year-old adopted daughter, Tina. The child was found by the housekeeper beaten, bloody, and half-starved. Her hands were tightly roped behind her back, and she cowered behind the furnace room in the basement. The shocked housekeeper released the child and called police, who were obliged to protect their prisoners against a mob of outraged neighbors. At almost the same time, but in another state, an identical story unfolded. A dentist and his wife had beaten and brutalized their 5-year-old adopted daughter and kept her tied up in the basement of their home. They, too, were sentenced. The second child was Tina's twin sister, from whom she had been separated since infancy. Okay. These twins didn't even know about each other. Their lives were parallel. When identical twins are completely different, there could be all kinds of predisposition at birth among time twins as well as related twins. It is a well-known and universally recognized fact among astrologers that even identical twins who are born 45 minutes apart are not as alike as fraternal twins who are born within 5 minutes. On September 12, 1963, for example, Mrs. Ann Powell gave birth to twins several miles and almost an hour apart in Brentwood, England. The first baby, a girl, was delivered at Brentwood Maternity Hospital, but Mrs. Powell developed serious complications and was rushed to St. Andrew's Hospital's special maternity unit. The other twin, a boy, was born normally. Considering the difference in time, location, and sex, astrologers anticipate that these identical twins will have no more in common than most ordinary brothers and sisters. So it's not just a genetic thing that twins, can possibly be similar, but the fact that twins happen to be born right near the same time in the same hospital, perhaps it's an astrological effect beyond just the genetic effect of why these twins are similar. Unless, it's the case where they're born, an hour apart in this rare case. How we find the Astro twins. Hospital records have yielded thousands of cases of time twins. Elaborate questionnaires were sent out, but only a fraction replied. The major part of that fraction's responses didn't match with a time twin. When one would reply, quite often the other would not. Yet in 100% of the lives of those who were born within a few minutes of each other, the same tendency kept reappearing. The major events in the lives of these people paralleled one another as though they were perfectly synchronized. Since the Earth rotates at the rate of 1 degree every 4 minutes, the difference of a half hour or 45 minutes in time of birth results in a somewhat altered horoscope and theoretically in the timing of the events of the life. If astrological ideas are valid, and according to horoscopic interpretation, if the fast-moving moon changes signs during that interval, a subtle but completely different influence on the personality and outlook will result, even in the case of identical twins. Your own time twin may be nearby. Okay. Interesting. That's pretty much it. I'm going to be doing another video based on that book as well soon. Look out for that one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I encourage you to try and search for your twin, your time twin out there. Someone born in the same place, same time, might be living the same life as you. Parallel universes exist right here on Earth, folks, due to the knowledge of astrology. Okay? Check it out. Find some hospital records. Go on 23andMe. Maybe link up to some genetic people that are similar to you. Search Facebook, search Google, search for your time twin. They are out there, folks. Dun, dun, dun. All right, so hope you guys enjoyed it. Collin Chi, certified nutritional consultant, numerologist. If you'd like a consultation on anything of the sort, hit me up at collinchi@gmail.com. I'll put a link in the description below. I do numerology charts for people. They've been very happy with them. Hit me up, like, subscribe. As always, rise.